All right, Cosmo, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are in Chapter 7, Hair and Scalp Properties. You have made it to the fundamental components of cosmetology, and I'm so excited. In order for us to move forward, we must first know what's going on with hair and scalp. Since this is going to be a career, it's going to be all things hair and scalp from this day forward. So no matter what chapter you go into, you'll always relate back to hair and scalp issues that have been going on for whatever someone has going on with their hair or their scalp. You know, you guys are there. There's even a doctoral component to being a hairdresser, and that component is called trichology. And so you said, okay, Miss Cox, I'm really into this thing and I want to go higher. You can go as higher as the doctoral degree in trichology, which is the study of the hair and scalp and its properties. All right. So there's doctors of hair. Literally, there are doctors of hair. They are not concerned with the style, how it looks on the outside. They're not concerned with the aesthetic, okay? They are concerned with solving the issues such as hair loss, scalp disease, things of that nature. So a lot of time people will reference when they have issues with their hair and scalp, they will reference, especially scalp, a dermatologist, because that's the closest doctor they know. But there's also trichologists who specialize in those treatments. Okay, so that's something we're going to deep dive into. And it's always a great career opportunity. And I want you to be able to see growth as well in your career and not, say, hey, I'm just going to be behind the chair and that's what I'm going to do. No. If you came here and you know me, you're going to be more, you're going to give your time behind the chair, but there's so much more that you can do in the beauty industry. Okay. And so hair and scalp and properties, once we learn about this thing that people pay for, they manage, they groom, they treat, you be able to do any hair. Okay. So we are not looking at hair as a form of race from this day forward. Hair is hair. Okay. It can genetically carry DNA. All right. It can carry DNA from one parent to the next. So what may be going on with one parent, the child can pick it up. What has been going on with the female chromosomes in one family, it switches over decades later to the male chromosome. You may say, Miss Cuss, what does that mean? When I see a man with male pattern baldness, I don't look at the dad. I ask about the women in the family. Okay. I ask about the women in the family. And a lot of times when I see women with thinning, and especially at the top of their heads, I also ask about the women in it. I start asking about the grandmother's hair, the great grandmother's hair, her sisters. I start asking about those particular family members because I want to just go all the way back and figure out, is this thing heredity? What has happened? What else has gone on in certain aspects, you know? And so you have to really be a thinker for this chapter. You got to really be a thinker, and want to learn. Let's look at some of our learning objectives. Like I said, we're going to go to about 11:15. This is what we're learning this chapter, explaining the importance of understanding hair and scalp properties. So everything has a name and it has a function. I need you guys to be committed to learning those names and functions, okay? You're going to describe the hair root structure and their functions. Identify the hair shaft's three main layers and their functions. And so be able to explain. I don't want you to go word for word out of a book. I want you to read it, understand it. I'm going to teach it. I want you to read it again, understand it. I'm going to teach it again. But you have to get it to where when you see it, you're able to articulate words that will explain it. Okay. So when you take the test, you already, when you see something, you already know, boom, 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 that's what it is. Okay, remember the test. We're going to make sure that we know our terms first. So making sure that we know our terms and we know what each thing does gives a better percentage of us passing the exam, a higher percentage. Okay, you're going to explain the hair's chemical composition and what gives it strength, elasticity, and color. You're going to compare the different factors considered during the scalp and hair analysis. And then you're going to describe the 3 hair types and the 3 growth cycles. All right. All of this is great, amazing information, which will never leave you. All right. Which would never leave you. Your homework assignment, going forward, I did discuss with Miss Anthony that homework assignment should be theory-based, and assignments that you're supposed to do in the building will be graded accordingly. Okay, so we need to make sure, since your homework is theory-based, I'm going to be your teacher on the theory end. I need you to to put this in your calculator, put this in your notes. Your assignments are going to be due when they are due. Okay, we have to make some adjustments to make sure we're taking care of things that need to be taken care of. I am 100%, 200% serious about you entering the field and knowing what you're talking about. Okay. So you will be evaluated. You will have exams that you'll have to complete. You even have to complete exams to finish the course. All right. And so even in that, just kind of take a moment this week and just kind of reevaluate and put a little bit more in. We're going to put more in. I want you to put a little bit more in as well. Everybody would need to get some index cards. So even if estheticians are on here, everybody is due for some index cards, okay? Because it's going to be a lot of terms in both the chapters. Let's do some highlighting. And the first sentence we got: as a cosmetologist, you will be responsible for protecting the health and integrity of the client's hair and scalp. What does that mean? What does that mean? As a cosmetologist, you will be responsible for protecting the health and integrity of the client's hair and scalp. What does that mean? Okay, guys, this is what that means. You being a licensed cosmetologist, when someone comes to sit in your hair, you're not wavering whether how much they're paying you, but versus what services they're getting. So the amount of money, because sometimes people could lose their integrity by saying, I'm going to just make the money. And you know that person cannot get a bleach. You know that hair is not strong enough. You know those nails are too weak, to get this kind of set. And so you are responsible for protecting what they have. All right. And if you don't protect what they have, it could really become a problem in the future. Okay. So when the client sits down, it's more than you just saying you're a client. It's more than you just recording. It's more than you just getting content. You're actually responsible for the integrity of this client's hair. Okay. You have to protect the health and integrity of your client's hair and scalp, which means you got to do some extra training. So although you get a certain training here, you got to read. When the client tells you they use this kind of shampoo, they say, oh, I just use an anti-dandruff shampoo. In my head, I'm going to ask questions. So you think you have dandruff? Dandruff to me says itchiness. Dandruff to me says dry scalp. Dandruff to me also could look like flaky scalp. So when they say they're using an anti-dandruff shampoo, they're using that particular shampoo to prevent something. So I want to make sure that when I look at their scalp, Am I seeing the things that would cause them to use this particular shampoo? If I'm not seeing those things, that person may be using a wrong shampoo. I'm also questioning them about what do they see, what do they eat, what time of the month it is. If one little thing pulls so many questions out, that's why you have to be adverse in everything related to hair, skin, and nails. Okay? And so remember, you're responsible for the client that sits in your chair. You're responsible for the health and integrity of their hair and scalp. So they go out, they look in some kind of way. People gonna say, but who's your hairdresser? And they're gonna know then you just want the money. You're not taking care of their hair, skin, or nails. Okay. It says to do that, you must understand hair composition and hairstyling. Here's the thing. Hairstyling and chemical services alter the hair. To protect the health and integrity of the hair, you got to understand what the hair is made up of. Let's just put a reality check here. Welcome, Miss Anthony. How are you? Let's just put a reality check. Make sure everybody's alive, well and alive. Put a 1 in the chat for me. A 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat, especially my Cosmo students. A 1 in the chat. Okay. So we got some live indications. A 1 in the chat. That's good. That's good. You have to understand what the hair is made of, y'all. I want you to understand you are what you eat, number 1. Okay? Everything you put into your body should have a benefit to the body. Some stuff that you put in your body cannot process it. So it goes and eliminates it, and it has absolutely no benefit to the body. Your body will absorb fats for storage, for moving, and then you start seeing weight loss, things of that nature. You start seeing issues with organs, okay? And so that's why it's always good for us to make sure what we're eating and putting in our mouths that is beneficial to our body, especially for hairstylists and estheticians. Although you may do hair, although you may do skin, there is another area called wellness that you must specialize in. I'm going to give you a little bit, but you got to go and seek the rest of it. Wellness. It's okay to go back to school and be a nutritionist. It's okay to go to school and be a fitness coach. You need to read up on wellness, okay? And so since you're responsible for the integrity of their hair and scalp, you also have a interest in what they're eating, how well they're taking care of themselves, and how well they're taking care of their bodies. That means are they exercising? Are they drinking the water? When they do those things, they help you help them. Because they're working from the inside and you're working on the outside. Okay? So we got to have some type of wellness background. Read a book, read an article, do something that we are helping our clients. It is our responsibility to know what's going on with them. Even if they say, oh yeah, I have cancer, Lord forbid, someone says they had cancer. Well, you need to start reading up on this type of cancer. And what importantly, you want to read up on the effects to the hair, skin, and nails. Well, this is what I should expect the hair, skin, and nails to do with this particular disease. And then also with this treatment, this is what happens with the hair, skin, and nail. So if you have to get particular shampoos, you have to customize their services, you have to partner with someone who specializes in another area, do what you have to do because your job is to make sure you take care of their client's hair and scalp. Okay, so you got to know hair composition. Let me tell you something. This is not going anywhere. Hair composition. The hair is made up of keratin, a large percentage of keratin. Another word for keratin is protein. This is a side note. When the hair becomes weak and protein hardens, so when the hair becomes weak and brittle and breaks, you need to put back in it what the hair is made up of. You need to do protein treatments.
Yeah.
You need to do protein treatments, okay? We simply put back in what's missing, okay? We put back in what's missing. We'll talk more about just the components of what makes up hair, but there's something called combs, COHNS, and I'm gonna put that in the chat. Combs, okay? And so the hair is made out of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur. All right? You take all 5 of these elements and it makes up what we see hair. Same thing I need to share with my estheticians. Hair, skin, and nails are on the same wavelength. If something happens to hair, it also happens to skin and nails. If something happened to skin, you got something going on, it's also happening to hair and nails. I need y'all to understand that the hair, skin, and nails are on the same system. All right? And so whatever has happened to one is usually going to trickle down and happen to the next. All right? Cones. Let's look at these are elements. Let's look at carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen. Nitrogen and sulfur. All right. A lot of times you have products that will have these elements inside. Okay. Those products are trying to reference the structure of the hair. There's a popular product. The name of it has a number and it's called 8. Anybody know the popular product? It's blank 8, the number 8. Your grandmothers or mothers probably had it in their cabinet. You may get it today. It's a popular hair product called blank 8. People use it. They say it strengthens their hair, it grows their hair. Blank 8. Anybody know? Sulfur 8, y'all. Sulfur 8. Sulfur 8. Okay. Sulfur 8 claims of replacing or adding on to the sulfur that may be absent in the hair, the element in the hair. All right. Also, for estheticians, if you're on, sulfur is used as an acne mask as well. You can put it on the face, not so much sulfur 8, but sulfur acne mask sometimes will have a sulfur component inside of it. And it oxidizes and pulls things to the surface. All right. So it has a healing component as well. So sulfur 8 is the hair product. And then I've experienced the sulfur in a generic white label for aesthetics when it came to the skin. Okay. So when you see companies that say, oh, oxygenated. I'm gonna get up oxygen facial. Okay, they're trying to just replace what's lacking. Okay, um, this has hydrogen. This conditioner has hydrogen bonds to help build. That's fine. They're just trying to copy off of the elements in the hair, and it's that product is particularly put together to make sure that you replace what may have been lost. All right. Give me one moment. All right, in the chat, list a favorite product that you saw at home growing up that was used for your hair. Put it in the chat. List a favorite product that was always at your home, a favorite hair and scalp product. All right, let's go. This is cosmetology should have a thorough understanding of the properties of hair and scalp because this is what you're probably going to see on your check-in questions. Make sure you highlight. Analyzing the hair and scalp is a key first step to providing services that maintain their health and integrity. So in the classroom, we'll start on scalp analyzing as well. That means you're looking at the hair and scalp to see what condition it is in before you start. It is always going to be what you see, what the client needs versus what the client wants. What the client needs versus what the client wants. Always keep that in mind. Understanding how the hair structure is formed and how hairstyling and chemical services alter hair will lead to safer, smarter services, which means as you're putting chemicals on the hair, you need to understand what is happening. Okay. So yeah, you thought I was a stickler before. We're definitely going to be a stickler now that we're moving into chemical services. Okay. And so by even preparing for your perm on Wednesday, on tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about how you're breaking the bonds. You have to break the bonds. Okay. Your permanent wave, you're taking the hair from one texture to a second texture, straight to curly. How does that happen? You have to break the buns first, and then you have to reset the buns in the new state. Okay. It's just like when you've gotten a relaxer before, people do the retouch. As your hair grows, you have to do the retouch. All right. And so you have to break the bun. And then at that point, you have to reshape the bun, and that's the neutralizing process. It locks in the new shape. So I'm going to help you understand how the hair structure is formed, and then its importance to chemical hair services. And then identifying hair growth cycles and the differences between common and uncommon hair loss. All right. So this is going to be one of my favorite objectives, is you should have the understanding about hair and scalp, because if anybody has a question about anything related to hair, you should be able to go do. Okay. I remember how I learned. I had great teachers, but I don't know what my mindset was. I just didn't, on my own, I took it upon myself to do my own research as well. That particular research led me to magazines. Okay. And so I would get, for instance, Hype Hair magazine, the monthly subscription. But for 30 days, the whole month, I would read that magazine front to back. Even if I read it before, I read it again. My favorite part of the magazine was the Q&A, when people sent in questions about their hair and they wanted expert answers. So even then, I knew I wanted to be an expert in hair. So I would learn just simply by reading the questions and reading what the experts answered. And that helped me do a lot of problem solving, because the questions that they had were the questions I had as well. So it's almost like I collected books just to make sure I was reading the Q&A components about what, people calling in or people texting in, emailing in about hair loss, excessive hair growth, all kinds of stuff. And I believe that contributed to my expertise as well. And I didn't even have a license at that time. 17, when I was 17, 18, I didn't get a license to like 20. So I'm in banking on like 25 years. So I get a license about 20. And even back then in my teen years, I was trying to really understand the concepts of hair, skin, and nails. Okay. So we'll identify that. And then as you begin to talk about hair loss, what's normal, what's abnormal. We hear male pattern baldness all the times. We hear androgenetic. Not really. We don't even hear androgenetic. Androgenetic alopecia is baldness in women. Okay. But women don't get all the way bald. They get really thin, like in the center and on their edges. Okay. And so the edges will flare out, and hair disappears. And then those thinning areas become bigger and bigger. And so we still have some hair, but for the most part, the center and the sides will be gone in androgenetic alopecia. And then there's an alopecia called areata alopecia, areata. And it's hair loss, like from the scalp area in small patches, irregular shapes. It's like, what does that look like? And that particular hair loss simply comes from stress. And when you have challenge and won and overcame stress, you'll see that your hair starts growing back. Any questions? Let's make sure we're alive. Any questions? With my Cosmo student? Okay, great, great. No questions. Miss Anthony, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, guys. So look, hair root structure. You may have seen something similar on the desk. um, everybody has to understand this hair root structure. This is why it's first significant to cosmetology. Every hair strand you see, guys, is connected to something underneath. It's important to know what it's connected to, okay? Because it all works together, it all functions together. In order for your hair to grow, there are other components that have to feed into it, okay? So a lot of times when you say, oh, I'm using a scalp growth oil, I'm asking questions about it because oil doesn't necessarily increase the hair growth. Hair grows from the inside out. Now, the oil could be a stimulant, okay? The oil is a stimulant. Hold on one moment. All right. So even with aesthetics, you guys have to do waxing, sugaring, things of that nature. This is the same information that you're going to learn. Somebody will just buckle up. Everything you see, every hair strand you see has a component, a system that works underneath in order for you to see that. I was speaking about hair growth oils and products and things like that. They are amazing, okay? They are amazing, but remember, they're topical trying to get into a place where hair growth is. When you find a hair root, you have to really ask yourself, how does that product get down there to assist and cause hair to grow? Hair continuously grows. It's going to continuously grow. It grows about a half inch a month. And in more recent books, you may have an updated number, but it's in the family about a half inch a month. And so, yes, we can create oils and teas and things like that for the hair to cause it to be hydrated, increase growth, or even stimulate. Rosemary stimulates the follicle. Okay. And so when rosemary stimulates the follicle, it kind of opens up, gives a little wind, gives a little room, and then your hair is able to receive more nourishment and it will grow. Okay. But I don't want you to just be buying stuff and it just says hair growth. You need to be able to identify the ingredients in that stimulates the growth. All right. So your clients will come in with 120 products and you need to turn them right back around because what you have invested in what they need to grow their hair. And hair is not going to grow from a product. The product is a stimulant, it can assist. Okay. But most of the time, hairdressers are not getting down to the root of the problem. Estheticians, we use machinery such as LED machines, high frequency machines, things that actually help us push concentrated product down where it needs to go to revitalize the skin. Cosmetologists, I've seen you guys start to use high frequency. I've seen you start to use the scrubber. And so those are two tools that have been implemented to help you get to the source that you need to get to underneath the skin. And so just always remember that. Just kind of side eye and ask questions when you hear about hair growth oils. You always want to hear about the ingredients, okay? You want to hear about the ingredients. Hold on one moment. Okay. So trichology, this is what I was referencing to as far as the doctoral component of cosmetology. I have some good friends who are trichologists, who are also operating as hair loss specialists as well. You got Miss Lakita Black from Olive Branch, Mr. Dave Ray from Olive Branch, Mississippi, Dave Ray from New York, by way of Barbados. Um, Miss Tangela from here. It is so many hair doctors around. I got some really good friends. Got some people in Kentucky and so on and so on. So we're gonna see if we can have them on one day that they could talk more about the branch of trichology. And also there's individuals here in the city who have this hair and scalp doctoral degree. And so it's good for you guys to look into, especially if you're looking to do more and you understand the problems that people have with their hair and scalp. And that's where you feel like you want to live. So your research and your analysis, your clients will be focused in that particular area. Okay. So, trichology is the study of hair. It includes its diseases and care. All right. And so that's the definition. It's the study of hair, including diseases and care. Okay. Trichos means hair. We're in Greek, breaking it down. And this ology is the study of. So in cosmetology and aesthetics, you're going to see a lot of stuff that says ology. When you see OLOGY on the end of something, it is the study of something. Okay, study of something. So if trichos means hair, then you got ology meaning the study of. Trichology is the study of hair. All right, let that simmer in your spirit a little bit. Okay, let that simmer. I'm gonna put this right here in purple. And then it says, I have to put this in yellow. The hair, skin, nails, and glands are part of the integumentary system. All right. Period. That's all I want you to know. Hair, skin. I told you hair, skin, and nails are on the same system. And that system in the body is called integumentary. Okay. So what happens Whatever happens to the hair you're going to see that in the skin, you're going to see that in the nails. So if your hair is dry, your scalp is dry, you're going to see dry cuticles around your nails. You're going to see dryness in the face. All right. So this is why we start asking questions. Although we are an esthetician, we don't just ask about the skin on the face. You can say, let me see your hands. You're visually looking for signs of dryness. Let me see your scalp. All right. I mean, can I do analysis? Just look through your scalp. What you see on the scalp, what you see on the nails, you will see around the skin. Okay, so it all works together. It's on the system, hair, skin, and nails. All right. It says, although hair no longer is needed for warmth and protection, it still protects our psychology in significant ways. Do anyone have anything that grandma used to say, granddaddy used to say about your hair? You know, they used to say, don't cut your hair. I've also heard a myth that says dirty hair make your scalp, make your hair grow. What myths have you guys heard growing up when it relates to hair? What myth did you guys have growing up?
Don't
Did
get a
you?
relaxer when you're pregnant.
Oh no, they didn't.
And
Don't relax when you're pregnant. Oh wow.
and, and don't shampoo your hair a lot because the less you shampoo it, the more it grows because of the dirt.
Oh my. Okay, y'all heard that one. Don't shampoo your hair a lot because the less you shampoo, the more it grows. Y'all, let me tell you, you cannot afford a dirty environment around your scalp, on your scalp, around your cuticle. Dirty environments is going to create issues where the cuticle could get infected. All right. If an infection or disease occurs, we're going to have issues because now we're going to have hair loss and maybe that hair won't grow back again. All right. And so we got to make sure that we dispel all those myths. And so, whatever myth people have been saying, your job is to say, well, that's not true. It's give a solution though. It's A, B, and C. Well, I've heard that before, but that's you know, I don't want to say the words impossible, but you can say definitely that's not true. Here's some issues. I didn't ask you. Okay. Here's some issues that I think should be addressed rather than saying do not shampoo your hair, you know? And it's something to think about. I understand the chemical component, but usually by the 7 to 8 month, you want to reduce chemicals because your body is preparing to bring another life in. And so as your body is preparing to bring another life in, you're kind of over on this side. Well, the pores are enlarged and they're open. And so twice as much absorption can go on during this time. And so that means whatever you put on mommy, the skin can absorb it twice as much. All right. So that's why they don't want mothers to drink, to smoke, to things of that nature. For me, after 7 months, I don't do color. I would say color, 7, 8 months is still a chemical because the hair, skin, nails is preparing to have a baby. Everything is switching around. They're preparing to have a baby. And so we have to be mindful of that as well. So always look at the myths and say, okay, what's the issue? And then how can we fix it? And one thing is about when it comes to hair that you see is dead. Any hair that you see on your scalp, on your whatever you see hair at, that hair is dead. The only thing alive is the hair root, all right, that has not been exposed. So the hair root is the only thing that's alive. And the hair shaft, SHAFT, somebody put that in the chat. The hair shaft is the only thing that's alive. Once that hair pokes out of that follicle, it is no longer alive. People can say they can feel this through the hair, they can feel that, whatever. Okay, the hair is no longer alive. It is simply holding on based on how well you take care of it. If you don't take care of it, it brittles, shrivels up, and dries. So it's only holding on based on how well you take care of it. Okay, so the hair root is alive and the hair shaft is not. This is why with the hair shaft, you need conditioners and things like that to keep it in place. This is one thing that's true. The hair has the skin. Hair root, okay, is long and deep within that follicle. That's the house that the hair root lives in. Okay. And so any questions? Any questions? Okay, I do want to go over this figure here. Erector pili muscle. I want you to see this here, erector pili muscle here. All right. Here's the thing. That muscle is attached to every follicle. So every hair you see has a house, and the house is a follicle. All right. Every hair you see has a house, and the house is a follicle. All right. Connected to that follicle is going to be a erector pili muscle. The erector pili muscle causes your hair to stand on end. What does that mean? When you go see a scary movie or somebody scare you, your hair, instead of laying down on the skin, it stands up straight. It detects fear, worry, stress. Okay. And so that's the erector pili muscle. It lays dormant, and soon as it has that connection of feeling, it starts to stretch out. And that's where you like, ooh, I got chills. Yeah, you probably did. But at the whole time, your erector pili muscle is contracted and it produces goosebumps. Okay, it produces goosebumps. So that's the erector pili muscle. Every hair you see has an erector pili muscle attached to it. All right. Let's look at the living portion of the hair. You have the hair follicle, hair bulb, and papilla. Okay. The follicle is the house. Tube-like depression is the house of the hair. The hair bulb, located at the base of the follicle. It's a bulb space and contains living cells that have formed the hair strand. So the hair strand comes from the hair bulb. When you guys have waxed, so you guys have pulled the hair out before, you see this little white piece at the end of it. Okay, that's the hair bulb. Y'all, if the hair bulb comes out, notice what it says, located at the base of the follicle. It has a bulb shape and contains living cells that will form the hair strand. If someone has braids, and we see this all the time, or someone has, gets into a fight, your hair gets pulled, your braids come out, hair come out, you just get snatched out. Well, if there's a white bulb on the end, it came all the way out from the root. Okay. In order for it to regrow again, you got to make sure it stands in the environment. Okay. It has to stay in an environment and it has to be healthy. So if you don't have a bulb, we don't have hair. Okay. Y'all stay it with me. If we don't have a hair bulb, we don't have hair because the elements of the hair bulb create the hair strand. And I hope this doesn't sound like a lot. Well, we're going to pause for a cause in a few minutes. Okay. In 5 minutes, we're going to pause. Okay. And we'll be done with Cosmo. Cosmo assignment is to continue to read this chapter and do the check-in questions. Read this chapter and do the check-in questions. You don't know when I'm going to ask for them. Just start doing them. Okay. And then the dermal papilla, also called the papillae, okay? Cone-shaped elevation of the base of the hair bulb. It contains blood vessels that supply nutrients that allow the hair to grow, okay? So if you didn't have a bulb and you didn't have a papilla, we will have no hair to grow. You need these two components, okay? A hair bulb and a papilla, a dermal papilla, all right? And the papilla is going to sit right there with the hair bulb. Just want y'all to understand that these are the living components of the hair, and it's the hair follicle, the hair bulb, and papilla. All right. Without the bulb and papilla, we ain't producing no hair. And then the hair follicle gotta have a house where it goes to. Okay. And so those are the living portions. The erectile pili muscles and sebaceous glands are attached to the hair follicle itself. The erectile pili muscle, involuntary muscle, when it contracts, the hair stands on end, causing goosebumps. All right. Also, you have sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands are attached to the follicle. All right. You have a gland called sebum, S-E-B-U-M. Sebum. Okay. Sebum is another word for oil. So it says also known as oil. Okay, so you got erectile pili muscle and you got sebaceous glands. Both of these are attached to the follicle. So when you see a hair on the outside, you know what's alive underneath, and then you know what's attached to it. Here it goes. The erectile pili muscle is attached because when it contracts, it pulls that that hair fiber, and it stands up on ends and it gives goosebumps. All right, sebaceous glands attached to the follicle. Y'all, we have everything we need in our books and in our hands to be successful in the beauty industry. We gotta have everything we need. But here's one thing we gotta understand is terminology and how they connect together. So you have the sebaceous glands that are directly connected to the erectile pili muscle. These glands are stimulated through touch. So every time that you would touch the hair or move the hair, you are going to pull out a little sebum. You're going to pull out a little oil, and it travels to the top of the follicle, and it can be distributed around the hairline. It can be distributed also. Think about what areas that lack growth. Hairline. What other areas? Center part of the scalp, back part of the scalp, the nape area, the temple area. We've heard of people say that they brush their hair every night 100 times. Yes, because they're stimulating hair growth. They're taking the oils from the top and distributing it to the rest of the head. Okay, and so that's the rectopillar muscles and sebaceous glands. And you guys are going to complete the check-ins as well. Any questions?
I have a question. So you said when the bulb comes out, that's the follicle, and that, so how do you get the hair to grow back in that place where the follicle is no longer there? And if the follicle is there, but the hair is not growing, then what do you do? Because you know how some of the hair grow out and it be like kind of hard or whatever. So what do you do about that?
So the follicle is just the house. So the follicle is just like a nursing. It holds the hair as it matures and grows up to the top. So the follicle doesn't go anywhere until the bulb or papilla becomes missing, and then the follicle dries up and shrinks up. And so when it starts to shrink up, then you're gonna see that it'll be smooth and shiny on the outside. Okay, that tells me even the house is gone that the hair was in, or it has closed up because it has mechanically noticed that nothing is growing and coming out. You'll have to need surgery to go back and open that follicle up. So is the question asking if the bulb and papilla is missing, what happens to the hair growth?
Yes.
Okay. So remember the bulb. You have follicle, well, you have hair root. And let me show you. Let me see if I can show you. I'm looking for a better picture. All right, so here's a close-up picture here, right? So the follicle, just look at the follicle as a house, and it has the hair root and the hair shaft. All of that is gonna go here. It's just a house that holds the hair. But what's connected to it, you have the dermal papilla here, and right above the papilla is the bulb. It doesn't say it. It has the hair matrix here, but right above the papilla is the bulb. Let's just say this light pink area is blood. Okay, so for example, we eat food, our food goes digest into our system, and then the circulatory system pulls the nutrients from whatever we ate and puts it in the bloodstream. The bloodstream goes to everything in the body. So the dermal papilla is like picks up the nutrients from the bloodstream, feeds it to the hair bulb, and then feeds it to the root. It starts to create a hair root, and then the hair grows. Well, when you pull or destroy the hair root will always grow back if the hair is pulled out. And even if the hair root, the bulb is on the end, as long as the papilla is here and can get nourishment through, it can start to rebuild everything else. But it is when the papilla is destroyed that we have the real problem, because we have no way of transferring what's in the circulatory system, the nutrients. We have no way of taking the nutrients to the bulb for it to feed the hair root. So even though for a while we may have hair, but it's going to eventually have a growth process and it's going to shed. And so new hair is probably not going to be produced in that area because the papilla has been destroyed. The papilla would be the first interceptor that pulls the nutrients in, sends it to the bulb creates a hair root, and then the hair root grows into what you see today. So if you don't have anything that can connect, intercept, bring in nutrients, then you're just gonna have a bulb and a root like, oh no, I don't know what happened. We're not getting fed. So this is gonna dry out and become brittle. Okay, and break. You can do a wax all day long and there's hair bulbs there, hair bulbs on the end. As long as that papilla is in place, it's gonna be a transmission of place. The hair roots is gonna always regenerate itself. But if the papilla is not in place, it has no way to receive the nourishment from the blood that causes it to be formed and grown. Does that make any sense? And so when it's smooth, when it shrinks, when the follicle starts to shrink, just say the hair falls off, that little hole that the hair came through, that follicle, that pore will start to shrink. When it shrinks and closes up, it becomes smooth and shiny. When it becomes smooth and shiny, you can give up all your growth dreams because their house has now closed up and nothing can get in and nothing can get out. This is where we see baldness at times in these particular areas. And the only way to replace it a lot of times is surgery, where they take a follicle and a root from another area and then they insert it into another area around the scalp or hairline, wherever you want to insert it at. When it comes to like growth oils, it only works, okay, if there is life there, if there is life underneath that skin, okay? And he told you what was alive: the follicle, the papilla, and the bulb. And so even if you don't have thick, coarse hair, you've had some hair loss issues, but it's growing back, and this kind of is growing back, but it's thin, that is hope that something is still alive. Okay, but it's when it becomes no hair. It's smooth, and they used to say back in the days a Jezebel something, I don't know. But it's smooth and it's shiny, and that house has begun to shrink. You don't have any, there's no way an oil drop could cause anything to open up and to grow because we're missing the major component. The papilla is not in place to receive anything. Most of the time when you're using like a scalp oil, like just say rosemary base, the rosemary ingredient is a stimulator. So what happens, you put that rosemary base oil, that drop, onto the follicle. You rub it in, okay? Instantly, that pore is going to start to expand. When that pore expands, then that oil gets to come down to the hair root area. Okay, once it comes down to the hair root area, it starts to expand that follicle, and you guess what? You don't have a tight follicle anymore. Now, more hair can grow. More hair can be stimulated and grow because the room is not as tight as it was before. So this is why, certain ingredients and herbs and things like that, that's how they work. You grow from the inside out, not so much from a topical product and it just grows. I'm just trying to help somebody. I feel like I kind of went a little too far, Miss Anthony, you tell me if I answer your question.
Yes, ma'am. You overly answered. It's okay.
Too much, too much, too much. But I get excited. I get excited. But let me show y'all this here. Okay, this just breaks it down. Melon site is right here at the hair root. Derma papilla wakes up. Well, derma papilla don't go to sleep. Because as long as you got blood flowing in your body, circulatory system, the dermal papilla has to pull the nutrients in. Okay. And once it pulls the nutrients in, it just stores it. All right. And so your hair is consistently growing unless one of these parts are not there. All right. So hair is consistently growing. The rate that it grows changes, but it's always consistently growing. Okay. Unless something underneath is not alive anymore, whether that's the follicle, the bulb, or the papilla. If those three are functioning, you got hair growth. If hair not growing in a particular area, you got stunted growth somewhere, something going on. Okay. And something can go on because of in the inside because of medications and also because of infections, diseases, systematic diseases, which means a disease that affects the whole system of the body, which is very important for the circulatory system because the circulatory system key component is blood, and blood circulates throughout the whole entire body. This is why when people get blood diseases, they're more not only have a higher chance of like death, but it's a higher chance that everything in the body becomes a part of this disease. It just starts breaking down one organ at a time. So it's very important for you to even tell your clients, and from just my testimony, clients that are on dialysis, anything that deals with the blood, clients that have to have blood transfusions, pregnancy clients who may have to have blood transfusions, clients who give, blood and things like that. It's important to tell them to make sure those devices are clean. They're supposed to be sterilized for a certain amount of time because if an infection carries in the body through the circulatory system, it goes and contaminates each organ of the body. And so when you get one fix, by the time you started out with one issue, by the time you wrap this thing up, you got 3 or 4 issues with 3 or 4 different organs. So it's always important to wellness, to educate your clients about things that are going on. Any clients that come in and tell me they have a circulatory issue, they have a blood issue, I'm going to already look in my head. I'm looking at them sideways, not looking at them sideways here, but in my head, I'm looking at them sideways and saying, this client going to need some hydration. This client, I need to check and see what she's eating, because eating bad on top of circulatory issues, they start complaining about veins, tired, and things like that, low iron. Okay, they need vitamins, they need this, they need hydration, they're going to need oxygen to the scalp. They're going to need, it just helps me out. I just think like that, go a little further, but I am analyzing what they say and already preparing my mind for what the scalp, hair and scalp is going to need. But I wanted to show this video. You have this, not video, this picture. You have the dermal papilla, even for my SCs. You're going to have the hair root, which hair root, hair matrix in the same component. Notice this M word called melanocyte. Melanocyte, okay? I need you to understand what melanocyte is. Whenever you see the word cyte, C-Y-T-E, that is a cell. Cyte is another name for a cell. Okay, so you have melanocytes right here at the hair root. All right, so as soon as the hair forms, it's gonna pick up melanocytes. Okay, melano is melanin. The color to your hair, skin, and nails is color. Okay? So soon as the hair says, the bulb says, we're about to birth the hair root. Soon as that hair root is birthed, and it's like the genetic makeup of color comes straight in. Color comes straight in. This is why estheticians, when you have clients that have dark spots, topical creams that they put on their skin, 9 times out of 10, it is not going to be effective. You got to go down where the dark spots originated and push that product down to really break up those dark spots. And do you see how far that melanocyte is from the top layer of the skin? So as an expert, you should already know if vitamin C and vitamin E is what I use. I'm going to take those two in its purest form, make sure I don't burn the client, put it on the skin, and then I'm going to I need to drive it down. I drive it down with radio frequency, so it's going to be a high frequency machine or a scrubber or LED machine. That's how I'm going to push that product down to break up dark spots. So somebody just saying they just using a cream for dark spots is temporary. Soon as they stop using the cream, it's not working. And it may just fade or change slightly, but to really get rid of the problem, you're going to have to go down where it is and break that up. I just wanted to let you guys know when the hair root is formed, also next, the color of the hair comes in. Okay? When the color of the hair comes in, it starts to enrich itself, enrich itself, enrich itself. And then once it hit the outside, the shaft, it has already developed its color. Okay? Yes, there are certain oils that you can use to postpone or push back the production of color. Okay. And that's very on the scientific end. But I just want you guys to understand, because you're going to see melanocyte again. And I know that we see Caucasians and we see Africans, Indians, Asians, some with lighter skin, some with darker skin. Let me tell you this for esthetists and cosmetologists. And I went over into the esthete time. Everybody is born with the same amount of melanocytes. Everybody is born with the same amount of melanin cells. Okay? Everybody is born with the same amount of melanin cells. The difference is how many of those cells are productive. So you have Caucasians that have the same melanocyte cells as Africans. All right? Africans may have more production, more activity in those cells that make them have darker skin. Whereas Caucasians do not have that much activity in their melanin cells, which makes them have lighter skin. Okay? I can also tell you Africans are closer to the equator, which is the hottest part of the earth. Caucasians are closer, most of the time originated, they're closer to the North Pole. All right? So closer to the North Pole, which means they did not, over a period of time, they adapted to not have their cells, their DNA is crazy, adapted to not producing the melanin from the melanocyte cells. And whereas you being closer to the sun, the heat stimulated the skin and produces more melanin. This is why Caucasian or European people like to tan. They need to get to the heat so those cells can open up and produce more melanin. Step back. I may be going over somebody's head. Let's step back. Miss Anthony, it happens sometimes. But I want you guys to take a 5 minute break and we're going to come back for the esthetician intro to that chapter. This has been Introduction into Hair and Scalp for Cosmo. I got a bell actually. Let me find my bell. I'm gonna ring this bell all day tomorrow. Okay, so yay, Cosmo, Introduction to Hair and Scalp. I just need you to get some index cards, and I also need you to start doing your check-in questions for the chapter. You never know when I may ask for it. You never know what I may ask for, so always have them with you when you come into the building. Your index cards and also have your check-in questions. Okay, myself and Miss Anthony, we're personally going to check them, and we're going to weigh the grade. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're handling your work, doing the best job you can do. Let's take a 5, come back at 11:40, and we're gonna pick up on our esthetician chapter. Y'all have a great one. I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna pull up the SD chapter in a moment. Cosmo, you can leave or you can stay. Y'all have a blessed one. All right, we're back with our SDs. It is recorded today. We're back. SDs, you are jumping into your fundamental chapters, and we're starting with chapter 4, disorders and diseases of the skin. It's going to be an impactful 2 weeks. I need you to make sure you have your index cards and your notebook on stands with you every day that you come into the building. You never know what I'm going to ask for. Already, I want you to take your index cards and you're going to do your terms. One word on the front, definition on the back. That's your index cards. Go ahead and get started on those. Your check-in questions in your notebook. The check-in questions must be done for each chapter. That's for Cosmo and for aesthetics. The check-in questions must be done. Hold on one more. All right, can't hear anything. Can you hear me now? Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We'll use that as a roll call also. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, so Estes, you're starting with disorders and diseases of the skin. Do anyone know his disorder? Just put in the chat if you know what this person may. Now, I don't want to say suffer because people, with skin disorders, they just may have a pigmentation issue. Doesn't mean that they suffer from something. But anybody have an idea? Have you ever seen a person with this type of skin, with this skin tone? What is this called? Before we even start, see how familiar you are. What is this called? This condition with this person's skin. What is this called? And let me say that his skin is smooth. He has nice skin. What is his pigmentation? Okay. Y'all, it's albinism. Albinism. Yep. Albinism. That means they have a lack of melanin, a lack of pigment. Okay. And so albinism is on a Fitzpatrick 1. It doesn't necessarily, so pretty much their melanin cells are not productive. All right. And so melanin is in hair and the skin. And so also if the melanin cells are not productive, you will not have color in the skin and you won't have color in the hair. All right. You won't have color in the skin and you won't have color in the hair. All right. So from the eyelashes to the brows to the hair on the scalp to the facial hair will lack color. Okay. Also, things that come along with melanin is moisture and hydration. Okay. And so you may see that as a lack of too in the skin and in the hair. All right. And so, yeah, that's just to get us started. That's one of the pigmentation disorders. All right. And so that you're going to learn about. So you are already familiar with that. Oh man, you have about 14 objectives. Let's just go over a few of them, but we're going to make sure we hit all of them before we finish this chapter. Explain why knowledge of diseases and disorders is valuable as an esthetician. Y'all, let me tell you, we are not servicing clients with diseases. So you got to know what you're looking at. Okay, skin diseases and disorders. That means we have to consult with a physician. That means that we have to collaborate. We have to partner with a dermatologist. And so now as an esthetician, here's where medical background comes in because you're more familiar with these medical terms and issues. Okay, wherever your suite is, wherever your salon is, and you're going to be working, look up the nearest dermatologist. All right, and see if you can leave some cards. You can do referrals to them, they can do referrals to you. This is how you collaborate and work on your clients. You don't lose your clients and they gain one. They keep their client, their patient, and you gain a client. You're going to learn how to work together. So that's a marketing tip. Just there's levels to it, and our scope of practice it only allows to do so much. So that's why you have to seek out a professional and put that opportunity of partnering out there, because you and that professional, that medical professional, could profit, and also just working together make the person's life more better. Just make someone's life better. Describe how an esthetician and dermatologist can work together. Just did that. Identify the differences between primary, secondary, and tertiary lesions. Here we go. Now, everything you see on the face is not worst case scenario. This is what I'm trying to understand. Like yesterday, we were talking about exfoliators, enzymes, things of that nature. I want to be realistic with you. Enzymes, yes, they soften skin no longer than 10 minutes. Boom. But enzymes are not, I heard the reference of harsh. They are not that harsh. They are baby cousins to all of the other things, okay, other topicals. And so we have to, like, even though we see that and we see something on the skin, we can't be afraid to use what we need to use because we think that something is not going to benefit the client or is going to be too harsh. So you gotta understand everything that you do and everything you use. All right. So with here, you're gonna learn what it's a lot of lesions, but we're gonna categorize them. What's primary, what's secondary, and what's tertiary. Okay. Now, you also have pustules, pimples, you have boils, carbuncles, furuncles, you have acne. All of these have different levels of primary, secondary, or tertiary skin lesions. Our job is to find out which ones we can work on. Okay, your scope of practice as an esthetician, and we got to be able to identify them. Okay, so we'll probably have some type of project that we do in class. It's going to help us identify the different skin lesions. And then here we go. We're going to recognize skin changes that could indicate a type of skin cancer. Also in this, as we talk about skin cancer, let's look at advancement of your degree. You can say, hey, I'm licensed in Tennessee. After a couple of years, I'm licensed in Tennessee, but I want to learn more about servicing clients with cancer, where you can go to local organizations and they have programs like Look Good, Feel Good, which are free to you, but it trains you on how to service clients who are cancer patients. You want to go deeper than that. There are a few institutions across the United States that will take licensed estheticians in, take you back through a course, and where you now have an oncology esthetician. You're known as an oncology esthetician or an esthetician that specializes in oncology patients. That's you specialize in cancer patients, okay? So going through that institution just helps prepare you to deal with those particular clients in your market. Okay. You're going to describe the types of acne. Acne is evaluated in grades: grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. Okay. The higher the number, the worst case scenario when it comes to the acne. The lower the number, the simplest treatment will be able to take care of that type of acne. Number 6, you're going to describe the symptoms of polycystic ovarian syndrome as PCOS. I was saying yesterday, I could see it when it walks through the door. When I'm walking or if I'm in a class, I can see PCOS because I've dealt with it so much of my life and I had so many clients that dealt with it. I can see it. All right. And so I want to teach you the things to look for when you come in contact with someone and the questions that you should also be asking. And then there's list common vascular conditions or disorders. Okay. When we look at vascular conditions and disorders, we look at vascular. I want you to think about veins, tubes. Okay. That's within the body. And then you're going to identify pigment disorders. That's the albinism we talked about at the beginning of the chapter. Identify pigment disorders. You have albinism. You also have hyperpigmentation, which is dark spots. You also have hypopigmentation, which is light spots. So we're going to learn how to identify that, and if treatable, what are some things we should be doing? You're going to learn about the different types of dermatitis. All right. So dermatitis, skin issues, drying of skin, eczema falls into that category. Hypertrophies, okay? Moles and things of that nature that raise from the skin. Of course, textures of the skin. You're going to define 9 contagious skin and nail diseases, okay? So 9, that is going to be on an exam as well. You're going to identify 2 mental health conditions that may manifest as skin conditions, which means you could be going through something, stress, breakdown, taking medication for mental disorder, but that sparks issues with your skin. All right. So, which means stress, things of that nature can also cause eczema outbreaks called dermatitis outbreaks. Okay. And so we have to educate our clients and not only that, ourselves on being mentally balanced. Put some attention onto this mental health. Okay. Because at a that affects our client's skin. And sometimes you be saying, because I can't figure out what's going on with their client's skin. You may need to ask the client what's going on at home. You don't want to know the details, but you want to really get to the point and stress for them to relax. Breathe. Take a moment, okay? You also, the last 2, you're going to recognize common skin conditions related to skin diseases and disorders. So recognize common skin conditions related to skin diseases and disorders. So you can service clients with skin conditions, okay? But it may be the lightest form and not a disease or disorder. So there's, proper client protection and things like that. But the conditions keeps us within our scope of practice, so you can service those clients. And then you're going to explain the 5 pseudoflorous gland disorders. Pseudoflorous glands are sweat glands. So you're going to explain 5 disorders of the sweat glands. And that's going to kill it for us. That's a lot. And that's why I wanted to go over this chapter, because as you continue to move forward, this particular chapter will move forward with you everywhere you go. Okay? Everywhere you go. So I must jump down and do a little highlighting. And we're talking about why you need to know this information. I'm going to highlight here and then we'll come back up. All right, here's our initial highlight. This is the introduction of our chapter. I also want our SDs to go ahead and make sure that you're reading this chapter as well. Okay, it says estheticians can provide client education and help clients with many of their skin concerns. You are considered the expert. Once you're licensed, you are considered the expert. It is your responsibility to keep up and afresh with what's going on in the industry. And always, you may say, I have my license, but I don't, I still got to look in my book sometimes. That's good. That's good. I was saying the other day, go back to your book. You're going to do that for at least the first 5 years. Hold on one moment. All right, all right, all right. Thank you guys. Okay, so it's our responsibility to make sure that we're sharing everything, we're educating. We are considered the experts, so we have to keep abreast of everything that's going on. All right. It says clients are in a vulnerable position. I'm in the green when they bare their skin to you. All right, which means you are probably going to see more personally, you're going to be personally engaged with this client than they are at home, at work, with anybody else. So we have to be respectful and appreciative that they trust us like that. And especially estheticians, cosmetologists are going to do some waxing. You're licensed, you're going to be licensed to do everything. But estheticians, you're licensed for skincare and wellness, right? And one of the biggest services could be waxing. So if you're going to be doing some waxing, especially Brazilian, intimate areas, you may do some bleaching in those intimate areas. The clients trust you, all right? And so they want to build a rapport with you. So that makes them in a vulnerable state. So we mind what we say and how we say it sometimes, but get educated, because any issue that the client has going on, you should be the one with the resolution. You don't want them to go out somewhere else. And then what happens, you lose that client because you did not have a credible source to help them with their solution. You didn't have the plan to help them. Okay. And so each client should be treated, as an individual, and whatever that client got going on, we are continuously sourcing to make sure we service that client and we take care of that issue. Clients that have sensitivities, you may be an esthetician that may want to specialize in sensitive skin. You also may be an esthetician that wants to specialize in melanated skin. There are not a lot of estheticians that specialize in melanated skin. You may be an esthetician that may want to specialize in acne. There are not a lot of estheticians that want to specialize in those areas. But guys, let me tell you, one of the top issues with skin is going to be acne. And there's multiple grades of acne. I'm not telling you what to do, but somebody needs to make sure that they service this large population. You can be the answer to this large population because you've honed in and focused on how acne is caused. How does it look? You can determine the grades. You have the different certifications behind you. You have the license behind you. You work with products and ingredients, different manufacturers. You should have those credentials behind you that they trust you without even having to ask a question. Okay, but that's where a lot of the money is. And the second largest amount of money is coming from older seasoned clients that want to look younger. So they come and get skin issues to get rid of to try to minimize or get rid of wrinkles. They want to tighten the skin. They want to smooth the complexion out. They want complexion. They want texture as well. So that's another area that's booming right now. I'm just saying. Okay. Never work on skin on any skin condition you do not recognize, which means if you see something, say something. If you have a doubt, don't do it, because as a licensed professional, you will be held liable, and they will call the witness to the stand, and the witness could be your teacher, or the witness could be any expert that has a license in your field, and they're going to say, you were supposed to do consultation, you're supposed to do analysis, you're supposed to do this, and you can't do that under your license. So be very, very mindful of just doing stuff just to be doing it. You don't just, the first day they come in, do a chemical peel. You prep for a chemical peel. You don't just go in and do a chemical peel. So I heard that people are doing individual chemical peel classes, but be very, very careful. You're coming in doing a chemical peel class and you only get 1 day of training. Okay? You don't know any contraindications. They just taught you how to apply it. Okay. You don't know anything else about it. So it's something that you should be really sure about before you do it. Let's look at the pink. Posting a photo of your client's skin on social media and asking for advice. It's not the right answer on how to treat your client's skin. How many of you guys have been on Facebook and seen the esthetician groups and you see people say, hey, I got a client tomorrow. What you think going on with her skin? That is not the way. It's not teach you anything. You found a source. You found a resource, I should say. That resource helps you along the way. You just have a lot of opinions. You don't know what to use, but you have to have the knowledge yourselves. Last thing before we prepare to close out. So estheticians should study and have a thorough understanding of disorders and diseases of the skin because, take note, this is what you will find also in your study guides. You should recognize a potential contagious skin disorder can stop the spread of infection. If you recognize it, we can shut this down. Okay? If you recognize it, everything can be shut down. It says you will help individuals that have skin problems and have been affected emotionally by dealing with such a visible problem. People really have issues going on, real life stuff, that whatever's going on with their skin, they don't look good, they don't feel good, it doesn't make them feel good. Homework assignment. I'm about to give a homework assignment to my esties in 1 second. Hold tight. Last one, learning when to stop a service and refer a client to a medical professional may save their life, which means we are everything, every little bump you see on someone is not an extraction. Some things are cysts, and cysts have to be removed through a medical professional. Okay, so we can't do all that. And it may be sensitive, you may bust a bump and pus may come out, but y'all, you may even make it bigger the next time. You got to remove the sac in order to remove the cyst. So a lot of times you can find it under arms and things like that. So you got to be very, very careful, very, very careful about performing services just to make money when you know you're not licensed to do so. Okay, so stay within our scope of practice, go out, get training, and then your scope of practice expands. The more you know, the more you can grow. Okay, the more you know, the more you can grow. I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to give the homework assignment for SDs. And we hopefully we'll talk about it tomorrow. Put in the chat if you have, put a 1 in the chat if you have a Netflix. A 1 in the chat if you have a Netflix. All right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. My students all have a Netflix. All right. Let's go here. I want you to search Netflix for this show. It's called Skin Decisions. Search Netflix for this show called Skin Decisions. Okay. This particular show, I think it's on season 1. It's the Sanaz, Sanaz. The young lady is Sanaz, Sanaz. Okay. She is on episode 2. She may be on episode 1. Okay. Yeah. Sanchez or Sanez. Skin Decision, season 1, episode 1 or 2. You're looking for a young lady. Her name is spelled Sanaz. I also want to know about the nurse and I want to know about the doctor. All right. So I just need you to watch that episode. Tomorrow in class, I'm going to give you just a verbal quiz about what's going on. She got some things going on with her skin, and they use a lot of things for treatment. She did have a mental connection. Well, her skin affected her mentally. Her skin affected how she worked at school and how she worked at home. She never wanted to go out because of her skin. So I want you to watch this episode and we're gonna pull it all together tomorrow. Okay. Remember, just watch the episode. That's it. If you want to take notes, that's fine. Just watch the episode, okay? Y'all have a blessed and amazing evening. I know I took y'all over. Still clock at your regular time. I'm so excited to be in our fundamental chapters. Yay! See y'all in school tomorrow. Cosmo, you are permanent wave tomorrow. And Estes, we're going to jump into an assessment. And then we're going to jump into some new tomorrow as well. Y'all have a blessed and amazing day.